Hey, welcome back to the Word of Mouth podcast. I hope you enjoyed Alcohol, the heavyweight champion of the world. That's the only episode that's going to be over 10 minutes. And from here on out, there'll be 10 minutes or less. That episode is a good way for me to keep myself sober, especially early on. It's a story that I've told in AA numerous times. And I apologize for my constant clearing my throat and coughing. I inhaled diesel exhaust for 20 years, so it is what it is. Try to give me some grace. There's other things that people use. Is like one of the things they talk about in AA is that it's like an allergy, right? You drink it and it causes an adverse reaction. That's a great way to look at it too, right? Whatever works for you, it doesn't really matter. And it doesn't even matter if it's true or not. Like, people will argue the medical science of it being an allergy. Like, who cares, right? Like, when I drink, an adverse reaction happens, which are, I'm nauseous, I'm tired, I'm hungover, my vision's blurry, my eyes are bloodshot, my breath is foul, it's sweating through my pores, right? So there's that. And then there's the adverse reaction of the things that I do and say. So I'm down with the allergy analogy. Whatever works for you, and you'd be surprised how just something like that, something small like, stay out of the ring, aim small, miss small, can do for people, right? That it's an allergy. If I drink it, bad things happen. It's just like, bam, like that one thing can be the click that they need in their head to realize it. And so you'll hear me talk in the next episode about the switch. And the switch is very similar to Alcohol, the heavyweight champion of the world. You'll almost hear like you're hearing the same story twice, because it is very similar, but it's different in that it talks about mindset. And this mindset is really, I think, people that do high-risk jobs, firefighters, police officers, nurses, trauma, people that work in emergency rooms, right, where it's just chaotic, pilots, especially pilots, those dudes are crazier than we are, right? Special operators, like lawyers, people that work on the stock market, man, high pressure jobs, military people in combat roles that are out on the front lines, infantry, like it's an aptitude, a personality trait that I think a lot of people in those industries have. And it was a doctor at Walter Reed that pointed out to me the 3 most successful occupations she had seen. And you have to take into account that at Walter Reed, she sees doctors, pilots, and special operators because of, her setting, right? I would imagine if she was out in the private sector, she would have looped in firefighters, police officers, and other, nurses and stuff. But her experience, doctors, pilots, and special operators have the highest success rate in alcohol addiction recovery because of their mindset, because of the type of personality that they are. And once they turn that attention towards getting sober, like flipping a switch, it's just like, an addict turning his nuclear engine focus towards something positive. And that conversation with that doctor was a huge thing that helped me get sober, was understanding that, realizing that I've had that power my entire life and I've tapped into it to be successful at multiple things. I remember when I was in the 7th grade, I was really upset because I didn't make the National Junior Honor Society, because even though I had straight A's, my attitude sucked. I'd been suspended for fighting a couple times, and I had some things, behavior problems. And I remember my stepdad showing me no remorse. He sat down on the bed in our house there in Belmead, Texas, and told me, it's not all about making good grades, Robert. You're a butthead, right? Like you fight, you're loudmouth, you get in trouble in school, and so even though you make these good grades, like, you're not holistically a good student because you cause yourself a lot of problems. But I tell you, if you clean up that stuff, you'll make it in the 8th grade. And sure enough, he was right. The 8th grade, I turned it around. I started keeping my mouth shut. I didn't get in any fights that I can remember. I don't think I did, right? And And sure enough, I made student of the month, but I was actually student of the year for La Vega Middle School, my 8th grade year. And I made the National Junior Honor Society. And right, so you can do it, and I've been doing it my whole life. That doctor made me think back to challenging times in my life when I had to overcome things, and I remembered that talk with my stepdad, right? And it was like, boom, there's an example of me doing it. All I got to do now is do it again with a different subject, and today's subject is alcohol, right? So, yeah, man, it's powerful stuff, right? And it's good growing up in a household like that, developing a mindset of just being competitive and winning. I didn't grow up in a house of excuses, man. My stepdad, he was like, don't talk about it, be about it. You know, your words were meaningless if they weren't backed up with action. And it was very black and white, not only because he's black and I'm white, right? And his son, my stepbrother Kevin, is black, right? So we grew up in an actual black and white household, but the things that we discussed were black and white, right? If you screwed up, you didn't try to make an excuse. You know, you couldn't say, well, I was with them or they, because he'd be like, well, who is them? And what is they's name? Because I'm going to go talk to they's dad, right? And in that, so growing up, it was always just own it. If you screwed up, you just owned it, you admitted it, you took your licks, and you moved on. And as long as you did that, my stepdad would show you grace. As long as you were honest, you didn't lie to him about it, and you just owned it, he would show you grace and let you work yourself out of it, right? But if you lied, that was a no-no. If you tried to make an excuse, you tried to hide it. And so when you go into the military, that is a very highly respectable trait to have. And all of the disciplinary review boards that I've been in 22 years, I went to the Navy brig, I went to civilian jail twice, I went to 6 disciplinary review boards, and I've been in 2 non-judicial punishment, as the Navy we call it, captain's mast. But the one common thing I had that went well for me in all of those negative events, just growing up, you know, I just went in there and owned it. I never made an excuse. I didn't blame anybody else, and, you know, so I was punished accordingly and moved on. And that would be my advice to young kids out there is, you know, people like to say big boy rules. They say that in the Navy a lot. But they only say half of that quote. I don't think they even know what the other half is. It's big boy rules comes with big boy consequences. And when you get up to the 16, 17, 18-year-old mark, you're approaching adulthood. Those decisions that you make now come with adult consequences. You're not just going to go home and get yelled at by your parents or get grounded or whatever, right? Like, it's going to develop a criminal record for you, and that baggage can affect you in your future. You don't know, you might want to work at a hospital or get a government city, state job, or maybe even join the military. And you can't now because you have a drug charge from when you were 18 or a minor in possession from alcohol or speeding tickets, unpaid medical bills, your credit score dips. So you could be tarnishing opportunities now at a young age that you don't even realize could be available to you one day. And that's why I would, you know, highly advise myself, if I was 18 and I could talk to my 18-year-old self, it would be to knock that stuff off, right? You know, and then I would alcohol, the heavyweight champion of the world, because that frames it for people to understand, like the arena that they're getting into and the battle that they're going to fight. It's a way to be like, whoa, kind of float yourself up above what's going on from a blimp view and realize that you're going to fight a losing battle. And then the next episode I would play is called The Switch. And even though they're very similar, The Switch is about mindset. It's about getting your mind right so that you can stay dedicated to that cause and be successful. And then the third episode we'll play after that is going to give you the how, right? And the aim small, miss small is how you're going to get through it. So I hope you enjoy The Switch, and I will see you again afterwards.